Chapter 44 Speed and Claws. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seriously? Major General Hawke said, a nasty edge in his voice. Sanji shot forward, closing the distance between them. Ground meat. Sanji unleashed a rapid flurry of kicks. In a single second, he delivered over 10 blows. Major General Hawke took a few hits and quickly retreated. Gotta say, that rapid-fire attack is a decent strategy, Major General Hawke admitted. To take down a speed freak like you, I gotta crank up the pressure, Sanji said, settling onto his feet. He lunged again, this time leaping onto Major General Hawke. Skewered. Sanji spun like a top. He focused his left leg, aiming a concentrated, rotating kick at Hawke's body. Boom. The warehouse floor cracked violently under Sanji's impact. He's quick, Sanji noted, readjusting his stance. Flying eagle legs. Major General Hawke retaliated, aiming a kick at Sanji's back. This Zoan-type rear admiral was unbelievably fast. Damn it. Sanji barely managed to block the kick with his right leg. The force of the blows sent Sanji slamming into the warehouse wall. Sanji! He got knocked back. Usopp yelled. Sanji staggered, finding his balance. A trickle of blood ran from the corner of his mouth. Damn, blocked it with my leg, and still got sent flying, Sanji muttered, sizing up Major General Hawke. This guy's speed and power were off the charts. Humph, relying solely on your legs, huh? Compared to someone who uses both fists and feet, your legs are a formidable weapon. But I think you're holding back, Major General Hawke said, studying Sanji. Guess you'll find out, Sanji retorted. He darted toward Major General Hawke, leaping into the air. Ground meat. Sanji unleashed a storm of kicks, more than 30 in a heartbeat. Major General Hawke raised his arms and claws, protecting his vital areas. The attack seemed to have some effect. Hawke took hits to the shoulder and other exposed spots. Pulverize. Sanji spun in the air, finally connecting with a kick to Major General Hawke's head. Flying eagle claw. Solitaire. Major General Hawke finally snagged Sanji's feet with his claws. He braced himself against the massive impact, shattering the floor beneath him. What? Sanji's face was etched with shock as he hung in midair. You've lost, Major General Hawke rasped, his voice like an eagle's screech. Flying eagle claw. Fracture. Major General Hawke brutally pierced Sanji's captured right foot with his claws. The sickening sound of bone cracking echoed through the warehouse. Gotcha. Major General Hawke hurled Sanji towards the Straw Hat Pirates. Sanji crashed to the ground in front of them. Sanji. Sanji, you didn't. Usopp stammered, horrified. Sanji gritted his teeth and pushed himself up. Everyone could see blood gushing from his right foot, his leather shoe torn to shreds. The shape of his foot was clearly distorted. I'm fine. I can still fight. Sanji said through clenched teeth. Humph, don't tell me you're gonna keep fighting with a busted foot. You can't win with two, let alone one. Major General Hawke sneered. The others felt the weight of the situation. Just then, the sharp sound of a blade being drawn cut through the air. Zoro stepped in front of Sanji. Cook, leave this to me, Zoro said calmly. Sanji didn't argue, watching as Zoro faced their enemy. Major General Hawke studied Zoro, the young swordsman with all three swords drawn, two held in his hands, one clenched in his teeth. Oh, a three-sword style swordsman. This is getting interesting. I excel at hand-to-hand combat, but blades are a different story. I've faced plenty of swordsman generals in the Navy, and I've never come out on top. I'll have to take you down quickly, Major General Hawke said. Major General Hawke's body, aside from his claws, couldn't withstand a blade. A drawn-out fight against a swordsman like Zoro would be his downfall. Zoro radiated the focused intensity of a swordsman, yet his body remained still. Stopping with stillness is the highest level of swordsmanship. Aren't you going to make a move? Major General Hawke said. Zoro stared at him, silent. Flying eagle claw. Skullcrusher. Major General Hawke suddenly lunged above Zoro, aiming a claw strike at his head. At the last possible moment, Zoro snapped his head back and crossed his arms above him. Ghost slash. Zoro unleashed 3 rapid slashes. Major General Hawke's claws met Zoro's three blades head-on. Major General Hawke moved with blinding speed. Zoro's blades were deadly in close quarters, but Major General Hawke's claws had a limited range. He needed to rely on his speed. "Well, blades do make things a bit tougher," Major General Hawke said, dropping back to the ground. "You're seriously fast," Zoro said, still gripping his swords. Zoro had battled many skilled swordsmen, and he was wary of his opponent's speed. Among the Straw Hats, Zoro was the best at controlling and reacting to an opponent's speed, yet, Major General Hawke surpassed the attack speed of countless swordsmen, relying solely on his claws and agility. The three long, precious blades couldn't exploit their reach advantage. Zoro sheathed Wado Ikemanji and Kitetsu, keeping the scabbard close. Holding Wado Ikemen and Kitetsu in both hands, he prepared to fight. Eagle Wave. Seizing an opportunity, Zoro unleashed two blasts of sword energy at Major General Hawke. Major General Hawke vanished, but the sword energy struck and scattered a group of nearby naval soldiers who were watching the fight. As Zoro finished his Eagle Wave, Major General Hawke appeared behind him. Flying Eagle Claw. Major General Hawke's sharp claws raked at Zoro's back. Zoro spun his body, twisting the two blades with him. Rhino Revolver. A tornado of whirling blades slashed outwards, but there was a deafening bang. Zoro was sent flying low and sideways. Flying Eagle Legs. Ankle Breaker. Major General Hawke was practically lying on his back, one leg lashing out and kicking Zoro away. His claws and arms had barely managed to deflect the worst of the swirling attack. Major General Hawke regained his footing. Zoro slammed into the warehouse wall. He gasped, righting himself. "Keep it coming," Zoro said. "Very well. I'll make sure you can never pick up a sword again." Major General Hawke's aura grew more menacing, filled with a palpable bloodlust. Chapter 45 Roger vs. Major General Hawke. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Major General Hawke lunged at Zoro. Zoro quickly drew the third sword, holding it in his mouth. Sword Wolf style. Zoro's three blades danced like willow leaves in a breeze, his body surprisingly flexible. It seemed like no matter where an attack came from, he could defend against it. Zoro was a whirlwind of steel. "He's tough to crack," Major General Hawke muttered. He then jumped back. "But I can break you down from a distance." Before anyone knew it, the Major General ripped off his clothes, revealing his human beast form, feathers covering his upper body and arms. Eagle Feather Dart Attack. He pointed his arms at Zoro, and the feathers shot toward him like darts. "Whoa!" Zoro stared in disbelief at the swarm of sharp feathers. His sword wolf style could block 10 powerful attacks, but these dense feather darts were everywhere. The sound of blades slicing through the air echoed through the warehouse as he desperately chopped them down, but many still struck his body. They hit with the force of arrows. Wounded, Zoro nearly fell. Flying Eagle Legs. Major General Hawke finished him off, knocking Zoro to the ground. "No way." Nami gasped. "Zoro lost too." Usopp cried, panicked. Sanji gritted his teeth. Even the swordsman went down. "Damn it." Major General Hawke surveyed the group. "What's the matter? Already lost 3 in a row." Sanji turned to Roger. "You're the last line of defense." Roger met Sanji's gaze and nodded. "Leave it to me." He stepped toward the center of the warehouse. Major General Hawke studied the approaching brown-haired young man. "You're the last one. I'll take you down," he declared, his voice full of arrogance. "Can we start?" Roger asked calmly. "Humph, you seem awfully confident," Major General Hawke sneered. Roger stared at the eagle-headed, eagle-clawed Major General and pulled 2 pineapple-like fruits from his pocket. "Pineapples?" Major General Hawke frowned. Roger calmly held them up. "Don't worry, these are my devil fruit-enhanced weapons." Concentrating his power, the lower halves of the pineapples morphed rapidly, transforming into 2 massive gloves, bigger than human heads. "These are my newly transformed plant weapons, pineapple gloves." Roger slipped the gloves onto his hands. Usopp, watching intently, gaped at them. Such weird weapons. Using pineapples as gloves. Your powers always create the strangest stuff, Sanji agreed. Major General Hawke glared at Roger, annoyed. Humph, don't think you can trick me, kid. You'll see the power of these soon enough. Roger assumed a fighting stance, pineapple gloves raised. If you're trying to pull a fast one, you're gonna regret it, Major General Hawke charged. Flying eagle legs, he aimed a lightning-fast kick at Roger's head. In that instant, the sharp, green pineapple leaves at the front of the gloves shot out, extending nearly a yard, like they had minds of their own. They entangled Major General Hawke. What? He recoiled, but the rapidly growing leaves sliced across his legs like soft saws, leaving several gashes. Everyone, Usopp, Nami, even the marine soldiers, were stunned. Roger's bizarre pineapple gloves actually packed that kind of punch. You and those strange weapons. Major General Hawke said, shocked. Blood trickled down his legs. It's just a weapon I made. I'm a plant-based devil fruit user. I can control and transform plants into weapons, Roger explained. Major General Hawke's sharp eyes widened. Plant-based? There's a fruit like that? It's rare, but it holds infinite possibilities, Roger replied. Major General Hawke focused on Roger, then raised his arms. You saw it before. Let's see you dodge my eagle feather dart attack. Dozens of sharp feathers flew from his arms. The pineapple leaves on Roger's gloves instantly formed a cloak, blocking the attack. The leaves proved incredibly resilient, stopping the feathers like a dense barbed wire fence. So you can even defend against ranged attacks. Then I'll get in close and make those gloves useless. Major General Hawke declared. This time, he moved even faster, flanking Roger. Damn! Roger broke out in a cold sweat. The opponent's speed was a serious threat. One wrong move and he could be finished. Flying eagle claw. Major General Hawke slashed at Roger's back. A spray of blood erupted. Roger dodged to the side, but the claws still tore across his back. Roger! Nami screamed. Damn it, Roger! Usopp said, his voice tight. Could this be the end of the line? Sanji said grimly, like the previous battles, once Major General Hawke landed a successful attack, defeat followed. Ha 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 ha. Struggle all you want, you'll still fail. Major General Hawke cackled like an eagle. Roger stumbled, the searing pain radiating from his back. Blood stained the warehouse floor. Hawke's speed was his biggest weapon. Roger had to find a way to stop it to turn the tide. It's not over yet, Roger said, gritting his teeth. Let's keep going. Major General Hawke sneered. You really want to die? Let me tell you, even though my rank is Major General, my strength rivals many vice admirals. I've never seen pirates as young as you be so powerful before. But it's a pity you ran into me. There's no such thing as an unbeatable opponent. Everyone has a weakness. You're no exception, Roger said, meeting the Major General's sharp gaze. Major General Hawke stared at him, anger flashing in his eyes. Then I'll teach you a lesson. Chapter 47 Seizing the Saros, and the Psychedelic Purple. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Let's take this airship. Everyone yelled. Exactly. Getting to Alabasta takes forever, so hijacking this thing is the way to go, Rog said. The crew exchanged glances. He's right. Taking control of this airship will really speed things up, Vivi added, nodding thoughtfully. Plus, the Mary's still hanging below. We have to get our hands on this ship, no matter what, Rog emphasized. Awesome. Luffy cheered, grinning. Capturing it means facing a whole lot of bad guys, but don't worry. Captain Usopp's on the case, and I'll lead the charge. Usopp declared, puffing out his chest. Then stop flapping your gums and let's move it. Zoro snapped, gripping his katana. Hey, will you look at this? Mosshead's eager to get into it. Let's go, Sanji quipped, never missing a chance to tease Zoro. Hold on, everyone's still pretty banged up. We gotta be careful. They know this place better than we do, Rog cautioned. We definitely need a doctor, Nami agreed. they had all taken a beating in the fight with Major General Hawke. "Okay, Marion, hop on Karu's back. We'll all stick together," Vivi said. Marion hopped onto the duck's back. Rog turned to the former Baroque works artist. "Marion, your skills can really help us out here. Let me explain what I have in mind," Rog began. Marion looked at Rog and nodded. "Okay." The young artist pulled out her palette and brushes. "Ah, she's using her color suggestion ability," Sanji exclaimed. "Hey, you're not gonna have her paint some kind of friendship design on that bird brain rear admiral, are you?" Usopp asked nervously. "Of course not. Besides, we'd have to beat him first, and that would be overkill. We're going to use Marion's patterns to create the maximum amount of confusion so we can take these guys down smoothly," Rog explained, waving his hand dismissively. After a few more words with Marion, Rog announced, "All right, let's get started." Marion approached Usopp with her palette and brush. She painted a purple circle on Usopp's shirt. "Hey! What's that?" Usopp protested, looking alarmed. "Everyone, take a look at Usopp," Rog instructed. The crew turned to see two more Usopp standing beside the original. "What the heck?" Nami gasped, shocked. "What's going on?" Usopp asked, confused. "Well, you have two phantom clones now," Rog explained. Rog turned back to Marion and said, "That's Marion's psychedelic purple. It makes whatever you paint appear multiplied to anyone who looks at it." "Seriously? Captain Usopp has two more brothers?" Usopp exclaimed, eyes wide with excitement. "They're just copies," Nami groaned. "Cool. I want one too." Luffy piped up immediately. Rog continued, "So, I'm having Marion paint this pattern on everyone. It'll confuse the enemy in battle." A cheer went up from the crew. "Hurry up and paint mine. This is awesome," Luffy urged, rushing over to Marion. "It's cool, but it'll stain our clothes." "Still, for safety's sake, let's do it," Nami said, weighing the pros and cons. Sanji patted his black suit with regret. Black suits are not conducive to drawing. He had to take off his suit jacket. The white shirt inside was exposed. "Can't be helped. There are too many of them. And that damn Major General, give me the paint." Sanji relented. Zoro gave him a look. "Cook, aren't you supposed to be tough? Why the sudden change of heart?" "Because my foot's busted." "Why don't you get painted, too?" "Look at you, all riddled with arrow holes," Sanji retorted, instantly offended. "I didn't say I wouldn't. Just pointing out that you always brag about kicking everyone's ass with just your legs. That's all," Zoro said as Marion began painting him. After a bit of work, Marianne finished painting circular purple patterns on the whole crew. Rog now had a purple circle on his chest. He stood back to observe. "All right. We've gone from 8 people and a duck to 24 people and 3 ducks. The Navy's gonna freak out when they see this. And even if they keep fighting, they won't be able to aim straight," Rog said, pleased. 3 Usopps. 3 Sanjis. 3 Zoros. 3 Namis. 3 Rogs. 3 Vivi. 3 runners. 3 Marianas. This is so cool. Luffy cheered. Usopp looked around. "Captain Usopp's army, let's roll out." "Right," the group left the warehouse and headed out. "So, if we're gonna take this airship, how many guys do we need to take down?" Nami asked suddenly. "Everyone," Rog replied. "Seriously?" Usopp asked, surprised. "Of course. Every Navy guy on this ship is the enemy," Sanji said, lighting another cigarette. "Relax. We're the yeoman pirates, right? And now they're seeing triple," Rog said, patting Usopp on the shoulder. "Ah. I feel a lot better knowing there are 3 of me." "No, it is Captain Usopp who leads everyone to victory," Usopp said, his confidence returning. "Look. Group of enemies ahead." Zoro said. A large group of heavily armed naval commandos rushed over from the front. These naval commandos all rushed over with machine guns in both hands. Not good. Luffy, let's take the lead, Rog said. Rog quickly expanded the ends of his pineapple gloves to several meters, forming hat-like covers. The 3 flaming roses on Rog's shoulders were already aimed at the 3 Navy soldiers. The major who led the naval commando team gave the order, aim at the pirates and fire. The opponent picked up the machine gun in his hand and fired for a while. Bullets densely hit the protective hat formed by the leaves at the front of Rog's pineapple gloves. But none penetrated. These leaves are as hard as thin iron plates. The opponent cannot penetrate. Chapter 49 Singing and Advancing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The leaf hats on my gloves can stop bullets, but these nail bombs scatter shrapnel everywhere. Ouch! That hurts. A nail smacked Usopp in the nose, making him yelp. Zoro, this is your cue. Hit them with a long-range sword attack. Rog called out. Got it. Zoro gripped his 2 swords. Eagle Wave. Zoro unleashed twin arcs of sword energy, flying like a giant eagle towards the naval commandos. The blast sent over a dozen marines flying, tough as they were, clad in sturdy armor. Most scrambled back to their feet. Step aside and let me handle this. Sanji flipped forward, landing in the middle of the enemy. Table manners assortment. Planting his hands on the ground, Sanji started kicking upside down, a whirlwind of fury. His right foot was still messed up from Major General Hawke's attack, so he mainly used his left. Still, it packed a punch. The commandos went down like bowling pins. Rog's 3 fiery shoulder roses fired blasts of flame, hitting 3 marines point-blank. Closing in on the commando major and the last few stragglers, Rog spread the pineapple glove leaves wide. Time for some up-close action. The leaves on his gloves whirred like propellers. Rog turned his gloves into giant chainsaws, charging the commandos. The sight of the spinning blades made their faces go white. Rog's leaf blades lashed out, screams filled the air as the glove struck. Armor protected their chests and vital organs, but the vibrations and exposed areas took a beating. Grr, you stinking pirate. You're mine. That the commando major drew his sword and lunged at Rog. The rotating leaf met the blade with an ear-splitting screech, clang, the major's sword went flying. Rog cut the leaf spin and followed up with a double punch to the gut. The major, armor or not, went sprawling. Finally, the wave of 30-plus commandos was down for the count. Phew, we finally got them all, Rog sighed. Man, it's tough fighting without using my right foot. I need a repair service soon. Sanji grumbled. Forget that for now, look at our captain, Zoro said. Everyone stared at Luffy, who was covered in nails like a pincushion. Arg. It hurts. Luffy yelled. Usopp burst out laughing. You look like a hedgehog. Forget rubber boy, you're hedgehog boy from now on. I wish I had a camera, that would be gold. Nami snickered. Weiwei sighed, watching Luffy and the others. She thought the captain was just too much. Rubber. Balloon. Luffy sucked in a massive gulp of air, his body inflated like a giant balloon, the nails popped out all over. Phew, back to normal, Luffy said, panting. I liked you better as a hedgehog, haha. Usopp teased. Luffy glared. Real funny, huh? Alright, people, let's move. If Major General Hawke patches himself up, he'll be back for another round, Rog urged. Yeah, this airship is crawling with tough guys. These commandos are bad enough, but that Birdman is the worst, Sanji said. That Birdman is a pain. If he comes back, we're in trouble, Usopp agreed. Our priority is to reach the command room, Rog stated. Rog and the others continued down the main passage. Here we go again. Zoro pointed to a large group of naval soldiers blocking their path. This time, they weren't commandos. Just ordinary grunts. Luffy charged ahead. Rubber. Machine gun. Luffy's fists hammered the sailors. Eagle wave. Zoro sliced through the air with his swords, launching twin blasts of energy. the regular sailors fell quickly, but then, a dozen heavily armed commandos stood their ground. They aimed their heavy rifles at Roger and Luffy. Each rifle was loaded with small explosive shells. Fire! A dozen small shells shot toward the group. Rubber. Balloon! Luffy inhaled, puffing up like a beach ball. The shells, each the size of a fist, slammed into his body. Boom. The shells exploded on contact. Luffy didn't even bounce. Luffy! They all saw Luffy fly backward. What happened? Why didn't he rebound? Usopp exclaimed. They're exploding as soon as they hit him. Sanji said. So, they're impact detonating shells. Zoro glanced at the heavy rifles. They're reloading. Roger warned. The commandos loaded another round. Another wave of shells streaked toward them. Damn it! Zoro wanted to deflect them with his swords, but feared they would detonate. If only they were regular shells, Sanji groaned. Intercepting them now would mean getting caught in the blast. Looks like we're out of options. Rog activated his plant fruit powers. The leaves on his gloves expanded, growing larger than ever. 2 giant shields, 5 meters wide, slammed into place. Here we go. Usopp yelped. A deafening explosion rocked the passage. Rog's pineapple leaf shields were wrecked, but they had done their job. Chapter 50 Breakthrough from outside the airship. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Okay, time to hit back. The 3 flaming roses on Rog's shoulders locked onto the 3 marine commandos, and 3 jets of flame shot out. 3 marines went down. Reload, quick. The pirates are coming. The remaining commandos scrambled to reload their heavy rifles. Too late for that. Rog reached Luffy's side just as the pineapple gloves leaves detached. Aiming at Luffy, Rog punched him towards the cluster of marines. Right. Rubber scythe. As Luffy flew, his arms swung wide, like 2 long scythes mowing down the naval commandos. The marines roared as they were swept off their feet. Damn it, kid. Despite their protective gear, the tough, elite commandos quickly recovered and prepared to fight, but Luffy leaped up, stomping both feet down. Rubber spear. The marine under him was flattened. He's a rubber man. Cut him with a blade. A marine drew his saber and slashed at Luffy. Just then, 3 flames slammed into the 3 marines about to attack Luffy. Luffy glanced towards the attack. Nice one, Rog. Don't just stand there, watch your back. Rog yelled. A marine with a saber was about to take Luffy's head off. At the last second, Luffy dodged. The saber slammed into the ground, leaving a crack. That was close. Annoyed, Luffy punched the marine from the side. Even with his iron armor, the marine's face was seriously injured by the blow. The armor blocked the blade, but not the force. Rog charged in, swinging his pineapple glove and punching another marine. The blow was enough to send a cow flying. The burly marine slammed into the wall of the main passage, denting the metal. Sanji and Zoro arrived, finishing off the stragglers with their footwork and blades. We wiped them all out. Why didn't you wait for Captain Usopp? Usopp adjusted his goggles, slingshot at the ready. Alright, we're in the middle of the airship's pod. We're definitely going to face heavier resistance from here on, Rog stated. More of those guys? Luffy asked, eyeing the fallen marines at his feet. If we keep going, yeah, more enemies, Zoro confirmed. That's not even the biggest problem. These commandos are just high-level cannon fodder. It's Major General Hawke we need to worry about, Sanji pointed out. Exactly. Major General Hawke is the real threat, Rog agreed. They all knew Hawke was the biggest danger. Whatever. I'm not worried about that bird brain general. I'll just keep punching him. Luffy declared, clenching his fists. Just remember, everyone, if you run into him, fight with everything you've got, Rog emphasized. Don't worry. I won't let Miss Nami or Miss Vivi get hurt. Sanji struck a heroic pose. Sure, leave it to you, Nami replied, waving her hand. Sanji's eyes lit up. Miss Nami, I'll fight for you. Wait, do we really need to go forward through this passage? Rog's eyes widened. Everyone looked at him. Rog removed the pineapple glove from his left hand, then pulled out his upgraded rattan whip from his jacket. Along the airship pods were large glass windows. Rog walked over and smashed a window with his pineapple glove. "Okay, let's get to the command room from the outside," Rog announced. "From the outside?" Zoro repeated. "Awesome!" Luffy exclaimed, excited to see the outside world. "That's a good plan," Sanji agreed. Nami hesitated. "Do we really have to go that way? It's a surprise attack. We only need 2 or 3 people. The rest can stay in the pod for now," Rog suggested. "Great," Nami sighed in relief. Usopp puffed out his chest. Captain Usopp was totally ready to go. Raiding the airship from the outside is a piece of cake. But scouting the enemy inside this huge airship is also a vital mission, so I'll stay here and handle that. "Who's going?" Rog asked. "I'm in," Luffy shouted, raising his hand. "Me too," Zoro added. Sanji started to volunteer, but Nami stepped in front of him. "Sanji, you stay here," Nami said, gazing at him with her big, watery eyes. Sanji's heart skipped a beat at Nami's trust. "Alright, if Ms. Nami needs me, and Ms. Vivi's here too, then as a knight, I'll protect everyone," Sanji declared, beaming. Zoro rolled his eyes. "That idiot Cook's an idiot again." "Let's go," Rog said. Rog, Luffy, and Zoro climbed out of the airship through the broken window. "Be careful," Vivi called out. "Don't worry about them. We still have enemies inside," Nami reminded her. Sanji grinned. "Don't worry, I'm here. Forget about that. Let's find a place to hide," Usopp urged. Outside the airship pod, the giant airship floated thousands of feet in the air. The surrounding blue sea and sky were crystal clear. "Wow, spectacular!" Luffy exclaimed. "Seriously? Now's not the time to sightsee," Zoro retorted. Rog surveyed their surroundings. The view was amazing, but a fall would be fatal. Roger manipulated the cane whip to tie the cable next to the pod to the airbag above. Chapter 51 The Strongest One Strike. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Just as Roger, Luffy, and Zoro were about to hit the airship's command room, a figure zipped toward them. "What's that?" Luffy wondered. Zoro squinted. "Could it be?" "It's Major General Hawke," Roger identified. It was a giant bird, a massive eagle in fact, but this eagle was decked out in a rear admiral's uniform, and those piercing eyes were unforgettable. Major General Hawke had fully transformed into his eagle form, a huge bird with brown feathers coating his wide, powerful wings. Those wings beat the air with incredible force. His massive talons, capable of snatching up yaks, looked terrifying. And his beak promised to tear the sky itself, even from a distance. His flight was majestic. Spotting the 3 pirates, Hawke's eyes narrowed even further. "Just as I suspected. They're making a run for the command room." The wound Roger inflicted had already healed, and now, in the open sky, Hawke could unleash his full aerial combat potential. "Damn it, that guy's a pain. He's gone full eagle. He's fast," Zoro noted as Hawke closed in. "Whoa! Birdman's coming!" Luffy yelled, surprised. Roger and Zoro exchanged wry smiles at Luffy's lack of tact. Luffy pulled back his left arm. Rubber sniper pistol. He aimed and fired. Normally, Luffy's rubber arms only stretched 50 or 60 meters, but this time, he managed to extend it nearly 100 meters, aiming for the incoming Hawke. Hawke, however, nimbly dodged the attack midair. "What?" Luffy was shocked. "The sky is an eagle's domain. You rats are easy prey." Hawke boomed. He soared effortlessly. "Rubber. Reinforced rocket launcher." This time, Luffy stretched his arm back even further, launching it at Hawke, who was now over 100 meters away. The enhanced power and speed tore at the air around them. Hawke barrel rolled out of the way. "That's powerful. I can feel the wind being ripped apart. But it's still not enough to hit me. After all, the sky belongs to the eagle," Luffy retracted his arm, gritting his teeth. Damn, Hawke was incredibly fast and agile in the sky was Hawke's comfort zone. There's no way to deal with him, Zoro observed. Maybe there is, Roger countered. Luffy and Zoro looked at him, the three flame roses on Roger's shoulders were locked on to Hawke. Roger's body began to glow green, empowering the roses. He's over 100 meters away. An attack from here will definitely hit. But to maximize the effect, the roses will be damaged. Roger fixed his gaze on the circling Hawke. Using his plant-based powers, he was going to force the roses to go all out. It was the only way to hit Hawke. Hawke maintained his distance, circling the pirates. Oh, the rubber brat, the swordsman, and the plant kid with the brown hair. Hawke's eyes blazed with hatred. Brown hair, I'm going to rip you apart. His focus narrowed on the three flame roses on Roger's shoulder. Amazing energy was building up in the roses' flowers. Looks like we're doing this the hard way. Roger locked eyes with Hawke. Three-headed flame rose, triple fusion, .3 scorching flames shot from the rose's flowers, merging into one and blasting toward Hawke. What? Hawke was stunned. He instinctively tried to dodge, but the flame was already in his face. A fiery explosion ripped through the air where Hawke had been. The intense heat warped the air. A scream echoed across the sky. Luffy and Zoro stared in shock at the raging fireball. Sweat dripped from Roger's forehead. That attack was crucial. Failure would have meant Hawke descending on them. A fall from that height would be fatal. Got him, Roger said. On his shoulder, the three-headed flame rose that had delivered the attack had already withered into ash. Roger, you're awesome. Luffy cheered. You took him out in one shot. That saves us a lot of trouble, Zoro added, looking at Roger with renewed confidence. Alright, let's move on to the command room, Roger said, smiling. The three pirates seized their chance to approach the command room at the front of the airship. After smashing the glass, they burst inside. What? Pirates? A stunned Navy soldier exclaimed. Rear Admiral Hawke went out to investigate, suspecting they might attack from outside. I can't believe it's actually happening, a lieutenant colonel said. So, Major General Hawke didn't stop them? Could it be? Another officer trailed off. The naval officers realized the terrifying truth. Major General Hawke was dead. Otherwise, how could Roger's crew have made it this far unopposed? No matter what, we have to defend this place. The command room is the control center. We can't let it fall into pirate hands. A naval colonel barked. These were the Navy's best, and they quickly organized a counterattack. A wave of naval commandos arrived at the command room. Another tough fight, Luffy said. But it'll be a lot easier without that Birdman, Zoro replied. Alright, let's show these guys what we're made of, Roger said. Chapter 52 Bloody Battle in the Command Room. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dozens of sailors flooded the command room. 40 Marine commandos stood ready, machine guns and heavy rifles trained on the three rogs. Hurry! These pirates are tough. We can't let them take control. A naval captain barked. Whoa, way more guys than I thought, Luffy said. Just what I wanted, Zoro grinned. Alright, let's do this, Rog said. Rog, wearing a pineapple glove on his left hand, stowed his cane whip and produced a length of thorns. Thorn whip. The thorn sprouted, growing longer and thicker with wickedly sharp needles. Whoa, new weapon again. Luffy exclaimed. A guy's gotta keep his arsenal fresh, right? Rog replied. Zoro drew all three of his swords. Aim and fire. The captain yelled, signaling the attack. The Marine commandos opened fire with everything they had. Rubber. Machine gun. Ghost slash. Thorn whip, pineapple punch, a 1-2 combo. The command room erupted in chaos. The Marine commandos' firepower was intense, but the trio didn't flinch. The key is to take down the commandos, Rog muttered, eyeing their enemies. They're the real threat on this airship. Once they're out of the picture, the rest are just cannon fodder. Rog channeled his plant fruit ability, a green glow enveloping his arms. Gotta finish this quick. Time to power up. The pineapple glove swelled, nearly covering Rog's entire left arm, the thorn whip stretched, now over 30 feet long. Thorn whip, dancing spring and autumn, that the thorny whip lashed out like a living serpent, ensnaring 7 or 8 commandos at once. What is that thing? One commando cried. Those thorns are as flexible as snakes, exclaimed a naval lieutenant colonel, observing from a safer distance. Rog's eyes flashed. You're about to find out how terrifying they can really be. He yanked the tangled commandos towards the command room's windows, glass shattered as they were hurled out of the airship. Damn it! Shouted a nearby sailor. Several commandos raised their heavy rifles, targeting Rog. A barrage of small shells streaked towards him. Rog's thorn whip snaked out, intercepting the projectiles. The shells detonated instantly on contact. Whip's a little singed, but it'll grow back. Under the influence of his plant fruit power, Rog's right hand glowed green, and the thorn whip rapidly regrew to its original length. Time for some close-quarters combat too. Rog swung his massive left fist, sending 3 commandos flying. He lashed out again with his whip. Thorn whip, sweeping the battlefield. The thorn whip snaked across the floor, entangling the feet of over a dozen commandos. He yanked hard, and they all crashed to the ground. Not done yet. Rog leaped into the air and brought his pineapple-gloved fist down on the pile. A thunderous impact rocked the command room, the floor cracked, and the commandos were sent reeling. Lemme help. Luffy's voice chimed in. Rog glanced back to see Luffy bouncing beside him. Alright, go for it. Rog grinned. Luffy pounced on the prone commandos. Rubber. Storm. He unleashed a flurry of punches. His fists rained down, a whirlwind of rubbery destruction slamming the commandos further into the shattered floor. After the storm subsided, the Marine commandos were a mess. Chapter 53 The Returned Major General Hawke. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The naval commandos were wiped out in a 3-way brawl. Even though more naval units kept flooding the command room, they couldn't turn the tide. The Saros's naval forces were quickly taken down. After the dust settled, the 3 of them stood panting, surveying the scene. Marines were dropping like flies everywhere. That was a rush, Rog said, catching his breath. A great fight, right? Luffy grinned. More companies coming, Zoro said, eyeing the passageway leading into the command room. Another wave of Navy soldiers poured through. Just more fodder, Zoro added. Alright, let's take them out. Luffy wiped the sweat from his brow and clenched his fists. Suddenly, Rog felt a gust of wind. They all turned to see a massive eagle swooping toward the command room. The giant eagle was sporting torn navy clothes. No way. Luffy stared in disbelief. This guy. Zoro gritted his teeth. He's still kicking, Rog observed. The scarred giant eagle, or rather, Rear Admiral Hawke, glared at them with pure hatred. Impressive, managing to wound me like this, Rear Admiral Hawke rasped, his voice like an eagle's screech. Thanks for the compliment, Rog replied. The eagle's eyes blazed with murderous intent. The giant eagle started to transform, shifting from its beast form back to human. Rog had to admit, even in human form, Rear Admiral Hawke had an avian quality. Another group of Navy soldiers charged in from the passage and froze at the sight of the battered Rear Admiral Hawke. Rear Admiral Hawke, you. Rear Admiral Hawke's all right. The soldiers cheered. They knew Rear Admiral Hawke's strength firsthand. He was the main force on the Saros. Rear Admiral Hawke glanced at the soldiers and said, just a scratch. Seeing his unwavering spirit, the soldiers snapped to attention. Rear Admiral Hawke, awaiting your orders. One soldier barked. Rear Admiral Hawke's gaze locked on Rog, filled with hate. There aren't many of them. Scour the Saros, find those rats, and eliminate them, Rear Admiral Hawke ordered. Yes, sir. The soldiers saluted and relayed the command. Turning back to Rog, Luffy, and Zoro, Rear Admiral Hawke growled, as for you, I'll deal with you myself. Alright, bring it on. We'll take him together, Luffy, Zoro, Rog said. Got it, Zoro replied. No need to play nice with this kind of creep, Luffy added. The three braced themselves, facing off against Rear Admiral Hawke. Humph, I'll finish you all this time. Rear Admiral Hawke's body began to shift again, he morphed from human form into a human-animal hybrid, the eagle-like head reappeared, and his hands became fearsome eagle claws. Luffy's eyes narrowed, it was this form that had managed to scratch him before. Zoro's gaze sharpened, recalling how those claws could launch dart-like feathers. Rog steeled himself. He'd beaten Hawke once, he wouldn't make the same mistake again. Die! Rear Admiral Hawke lunged at them with incredible speed. Luffy, impatient, unleashed a barrage of fists, the Gum-Gum Gatling. Dozens of punches flew, but Rear Admiral Hawke, faster now, moved above them in the blink of an eye. Up top. Zoro swung both swords upward. Rear Admiral Hawke's claws met Zoro's blades, blocking them with brute force. Flying eagle sky-ripping claws. Rear Admiral Hawke aimed for Rog and Zoro's head simultaneously, with Zoro's swords blocked, they were wide open. Damn it! With Zoro's attack nullified, the three of them were defenseless. Using both claws, you don't stand a chance. In an instant, Rear Admiral Hawke's claws were inches from their skulls. At the last possible second, Zoro, Rog, and Luffy were yanked aside. What? Rear Admiral Hawke was caught off guard, his claws slammed into the deck of the command room, gouging deep furrows. Zoro glanced down at his waist in shock and saw Rog's thorny whip wrapped tightly around him. He looked at Rog, standing beside him. Close call, Rog said. When Rear Admiral Hawke had moved overhead, Rog had sensed the danger and quickly secured the three of them with his thorny whip. As Hawke prepared to strike, Rog pulled them out of harm's way, then Rog, Zoro, and Luffy resumed the fight. This bird-brain Rear Admiral! Luffy yelled, charging towards Rear Admiral Hawke, extending his hands. Luffy's fingers stretched out rapidly. Gum-Gum Net! A massive web of extended fingers formed in front of Luffy. That won't stop me. Rear Admiral Hawke weaved and dodged with incredible speed, but suddenly, the Rear Admiral's expression changed. The thorny whip was coming from behind. Two heads are better than one, you won't escape. Rogue and Luffy held Rear Admiral Hawke together, thorny whips and rubber nets bound it. Damn it, you all look down on me. Rear Admiral Hawke spun his body violently, throwing away Rog's thorny whip and Luffy's rubber fingers. Major General Hawke escaped. At this moment, 3 bursts of cold air came from his side. Ghost slash. Zoro fired 3 swords, directly hitting Major General Hawke's left arm and back. Hateful. Rear Admiral Hawke quickly created distance between them. Under normal circumstances, even facing the 3 of them teaming up with Rear Admiral Hawke would not be afraid, but Rear Admiral Hawke was wounded by Rog before, the body was severely burned, and the reaction speed was reduced. In this case, facing the joint attack of the 3, it is really powerless. Looks like Birdman slowed down, and his reactions are sluggish, Zoro observed. Guess that first hit wasn't wasted, Rog said confidently. In their earlier duel, Rog had landed 2 wounds, followed by a direct hit from his 3 flame roses. Birdbrain's a goner, Luffy crowed. Rear Admiral Hawke glared at them, the pain from his injuries a constant reminder. You actually pushed me this far. Rear Admiral Hawke seethed. Chapter 54 Destroying the Saros. You are listening at novelfull.audio. If that's the case, this airship isn't going to teach you anything. Major General Hawke's eyes blazed with a manic intensity. I'll destroy this airship, and we'll all go down with it. Hawke's voice boomed through the command room, reaching Roger, Luffy, Zoro, and every other Marine present. Admiral Hawke, are you saying you want to destroy the Saros? A shocked Marine stammered. Yes. This airship can't be defended. Better to destroy the Navy's experimental heavy weapons than let pirates capture them. Therefore, I declare the Angel-class airship Saros will be destroyed. The Marine stared, stunned by Hawke's unwavering resolve. Roger, Luffy, and Zoro exchanged glances, equally taken aback by the Admiral's apparent madness. This guy really wants to trash the ship, Zoro muttered. Then how are we supposed to go forward? Luffy complained, clearly displeased. Then, let's just take the airship before he destroys it, Roger declared, his voice firm. Now, the three were determined to stop the crazed admiral. Gum gum. Bazooka! Luffy stretched his arms back, then launched them forward in a devastating double punch. Hawke, reacting with surprising speed, dove through the command room's glass window just as Luffy's fist reached him. Huh? Luffy blinked in surprise. He just jumped out, Zoro observed, disbelief in his voice. Hawke had indeed jumped, throwing himself into the open sky. Roger, watching Hawke's escape, realized, wait, no. In mid-air, Hawke's body contorted, shifting rapidly from his human beast form back into his full eagle state. He's turning into an eagle to destroy the airship from the outside. Roger shouted. Really? Luffy asked, surprised. Yeah, it's easier to destroy it out there. He'll just target the airbag, Zoro confirmed, transformed into a colossal eagle. Hawke swooped around the airship, chaos erupted in the command pod, especially in the command room. That bastard. We have to stop him together. Roger yelled. Okay. Luffy and Zoro answered in unison. The three burst through the shattered command room window. Using his rubber abilities, Luffy ensnared Zoro with his feet, then propelled himself upwards, scaling the massive airbag with his hands. Roger, employing his thorn whip, launched it toward the airbag, the barbs catching securely. Under Roger's plant fruit control, he synchronized his movements with the whip, ascending toward the top. Meanwhile, Hawke, as a giant eagle, circled above the Saros airbag. This powerful airship, it seems I have no choice but to destroy you. The Navy's experimental heavy weapons will never fall into pirate hands. With a sudden burst of speed, Hawke dove towards the airbag. Tear the airbag, and the airship is scrap metal. Hawke's razor-sharp talons, each capable of seizing a horse, ripped into the fabric, creating two gaping tears that grew longer with each pass. The Saros, a staggering 200 meters in length, owed its size to the oval-shaped airbag, filled with helium and engineered with special man-made fibers by Dr. Vegapunk and the Science Division. The 30-centimeter thick airbag was designed to withstand bullets, small artillery shells, and even lightning strikes. However, Hawke's immense claws proved too much. Moving at breakneck speed, he tore through the airbag, the cracks widening with each agonizing moment. Helium hissed out of the Saros, and the airbag began to deflate like a punctured balloon. But with an airbag this size, the process would take time. Hawke continued his relentless assault, widening the breaches. Excellent, at this rate, the Saros will be grounded soon. Just as Hawke finished a pass, Roger, Luffy, and Zoro finally reached the top of the airbag. They gaped at the spectacle of the immense airflow gushing from the rents. That's something else, Zoro commented, awestruck. The airbag's airflow shoots into the sky, Roger remarked. Whoa, that looks fun. I wanna ride it. Luffy exclaimed, his eyes shining with excitement. He dashed toward the opening. That idiot still wants to play around? Zoro groaned. Suddenly, something caught their attention. Hawke, in his giant eagle form, soared back toward them, his talons poised to tear further into the airbag. So, that's how he's destroying the ship's airbag, Roger stated. Ah, Admiral Birdman's coming. Luffy announced. Hawke spotted Roger, Luffy, and Zoro as well. They actually chased me all the way up here, he muttered. He realized that this was the perfect place for a decisive showdown. Destroying it here would only hasten the airship's fall. We fight here. One blow to decide it all. We won't get another chance, Roger asserted. Luffy and Zoro nodded, their faces serious. They concentrated all their energy, preparing for the final attack. The earlier fight had weakened Hawke, and this blow would be decisive. You think you can kill me? Hawke flew toward them at full speed, ruling the sky. He refused to believe the eagle, the master of the sky, could be defeated. Zoro stood at the forefront, holding Shuezo in his mouth, and wielding the Hadao Yizuan and Goiche in his hands. His three swords spun like a deadly windmill. There was no escape from this whirlwind. Three-sword style. Secret technique. 3,000 worlds. Luffy leaped into the air, unleashing a storm of punches. Not even dozens of enemies could withstand this barrage. Gum gum. Gatling. The thorn whip in Roger's hand rapidly grew longer, and his body emanated a green glow. the tip of the whip shot toward the enemy at bullet speed, impaling them in an instant. Before, when using plant-based weapons like vines or thorns, Roger would bind or whip his opponents. This time, the whip transformed into a spear, the tip becoming a deadly projectile. Thorn whip. Bullet. The combined force of their attack slammed into Hawke. Reacting instinctively, the giant eagle tried to dodge, but in that moment, he understood, he had lost. Blood erupted from Hawke's body, the giant eagle was sent spinning away from the airbag and plunged toward the sea below. After the furious assault, the three stood on the airbag, regaining their balance. We won. Chapter 55 The Saros Crash and Emergency Evacuation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After a brutal fight, the three of them finally took down Major General Hawke. "Alright, that damn birdman's finally done for," Zoro said. "But this airship's still going down," Rog pointed out, eyeing the massive gashes in the airship's hull. "Hawke really did a number on it." The escaping air shot upward like a rocket. There was no stopping the crash now. "Whoa, it's falling." Luffy cheered. "You're happy it's falling?" "You goofball," Zoro sighed. "Yeah, it's going down, but the Mary's still tethered underneath, and the others are in the pod. We need to get the Mary back in the water, so I need to head to the command room. Zoro, you and Luffy get everyone out of the pod," Rog instructed. "Good idea, but wait, that idiot." Zoro's face went slack with surprise. Rog followed his gaze. Luffy was stretched out like a pancake, plastered against the two huge tiers in the airship. "Whoa, what's happening?" "The gas isn't rushing out as much now," Luffy said, stuck to the massive rips. Rog and Zoro stared. Luffy was acting like giant duct tape, but he was stretched hundreds of feet, close to his limit. "Holy crap, that's unexpected." "But it is slowing down the leak," Rog admitted. Suddenly, Luffy shifted, and another gust of air blasted out. "Whoa, that's a strong one," Luffy exclaimed. Rog studied Luffy. After a moment, he said to Zoro, "Looks like he can't hold it for long." "But every second counts." "Right. Let him keep at it," Zoro agreed. "Luffy, keep doing what you're doing," Rog called out. Luffy looked puzzled, then nodded. Okay." Meanwhile, inside the airship's pod, chaos reigned. Navy soldiers panicked. "Hurry! The Saros is going down. Grab a parachute and get out of here." The soldiers rushed to the escape room, scrambling for parachutes. They strapped on their packs and jumped. In a room on the Saros, Sanji, Usopp, Nami, Vivi, Marianne, and Run Fast were huddled together. "Look! The Marines are bailing out with parachutes." Usopp pointed out the window. Nami joined him, seeing a mass of parachutes opening in the sky beneath the airship. "Does it feel like we're going down?" Vivi asked. "Definitely. We're dropping fast, and it's bumpy." "I heard the Marines yelling that this thing's gonna crash," Sanji confirmed. Usopp's face grew even more strained. "Really?" he and Nami asked simultaneously. "We need to get out of here, pronto," Sanji said. "What about the Mary?" "It's still hanging underneath," Usopp worried. "That's the problem. But we have to get out of here first," Sanji insisted. He went to the door. The sounds of running soldiers had faded. Sanji opened the door and the group stepped out. They moved through the massive pod. Usopp clutched his slingshot, scanning their surroundings. "Gotta watch out for any stragglers," he muttered. Sanji, naturally, was also observant, but judged the immediate area safe. With the airship about to crash, the remaining Marines weren't looking for a fight. What the hell did those three do? Why is this thing going down? Weren't they supposed to capture it? Sanji wondered. Who knows? Nami replied, frustrated. As they walked, a figure appeared ahead. Who's there? Usopp snapped, raising his slingshot. Hold on, Sanji said, recognizing the silhouette. It was Zoro. Oh, it's just Zoro, Usopp relaxed. Mosshead, where are Luffy and Rog? Sanji asked. They're dealing with stuff. Not the time to explain, Zoro said. Suddenly, the airship lurched violently. We're going down. Everyone back to the Mary. Rog's getting us out of here. Zoro yelled. They rushed back to the room where the Mary was suspended. Meanwhile, back in the command room, Rog had arrived. These controls are a freaking mess. Rog stared at the confusing array of buttons and levers. He needed to find the release for the ship. After a frantic search, he spotted a lever marked ship release mechanism. Can't wait any longer. Rog yanked the lever. The Saros was only a few hundred feet above the water. Any longer, and the Mary would be crushed beneath the falling airship. Underneath the Saros, Sanji and the others reached the Mary. Finally. I'm exhausted, Usopp said as he plopped onto the deck. Rog's in the command room. Luffy's playing human duct tape on the hull. Sanji filled them in. The airship continued its descent. Please, Rog, hurry, Nami pleaded. Let's trust him, Vivi said. Zoro stared intently upwards, waiting for the ship to be released. It's moving. Usopp shouted. The 4 grappling hooks holding the Mary began to descend on their chains. The Mary dropped quickly, faster than the airship's fall. Finally, Zoro said with a smile, with a splash, the Mary hit the water. Zoro and Sanji quickly detached the grappling hooks. Let's get out of here. Set sail. Nami commanded. Everyone scrambled to raise the sails and row, pulling the Mary away from the descending Saros.